Hey, 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 welcome back to Goals and Greatness Podcast, your weekly dose of business banter, big ideas, epic fails, and the systems that make the dream work. With your favorite duo, Kat and Lou.
Double the expertise, double the fun. I'm Lou, your navigator on this wild ride of risk-taking and rule-breaking.
And I'm Kat, your go-to guru for all things startup. Together, we're unzipping the secrets of success and taking you behind the scenes of our crazy world.
Whether you're a CEO in the making or you've just scribbled your first business plan on a napkin, we're here to fuel that fire and help you unleash your greatness to achieve those big, bold goals.
So entrepreneurs, visionaries, and everyone in between, get ready to join the ride with Kat and Lou. Let's turn up the volume and unleash your greatness. All right, we are back today, and I am so excited about our guest, Hal Elrod. Some of you guys might have heard of Hal before. I would say a lot of the world has. Some of you, this might be your first introduction to Hal, and really one of the most beautiful humans that I've ever had the opportunity to meet on this planet. So, Hal, thank you so much for taking time out. I'm so excited to have you today.
Kathy, thank you. And those are such kind words. I receive and appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely. So I'm stoked. We have a new edition of Miracle Morning with like 70 plus pages of new content. And I'm so excited to get to that in a bit.
Yeah.
But before, just for those who have never met you, I'd love for you to share a little bit of background on who the heck Hal Elrod and where Miracle Morning came about. And so just kind of backtrack to, I don't know if we go back to like 01 or 02 with the accident. I don't know if we started in 08, but I'm going to let you give a quick intro on just you, a little background, and then, what inspired the Miracle Morning the initial time, and then we'll kind of talk through.
Yeah, thank you for this opportunity. I appreciate this. And I'm actually going to start somewhere that I never used to start, but recently I've realized how important this part of my story is. When I was 8 years old, I woke up on a Saturday morning to the sound of my mother screaming across the hall, my baby, oh, my baby. And I ran across the hall, and my 18-month-old baby sister, Amory, was dead in her arms. Oh. And my mother was, well, I didn't know she was dead. My mom was giving her mouth-to-mouth resuscitation and trying to revive her. Long story short on that, she died that morning. And within the year, my mother had founded and was leading a support group for other parents who had lost young children. My dad had started a fundraiser to raise money for the hospital that cared for my sister while she was alive. So what I realized is at the time, I didn't understand what I was gaining from that. But when I look back in the other stories that we're about to get into, that my life was shaped by my mom and dad to take their tragedy and help other people, to find purpose in their pain, right? And in doing so, if we can always, when we're facing adversity, when we can say, how can this challenge, how can this difficulty, no matter how painful it might be, how might this serve me or others in the future, or now or in the future? And so that would really shape how I'd respond to all of my future adversity of going, how can I use this experience to help other people? Fast forward 12 years later, at 20 years old, I was driving home from a Cutco present. I had given a speech at a Cutco conference at my work, and my car was hit head on by a drunk driver at 70 miles per hour, and I was found dead at the scene. I broke 11 bones. I stopped breathing for 6 minutes. A heartbeat stopped for 6 minutes, and I eventually was resuscitated on a helicopter, spent 6 days in a coma, and came out of the coma to be told I would never walk again. And at age 20, that was difficult news to take, but I just decided I am going to walk again. I'm going to maintain faith in that possibility. But if I don't walk again, and I had no way of knowing what would happen, right? I decided I'll be the happiest, most grateful person you've ever seen in a wheelchair. Because if I am in a wheelchair for the rest of my life, I either can allow that to make me miserable, or I can choose to just be completely at peace with my reality exactly as it is and make the best of it. And before we go on to the next piece of it, I want to encourage everyone to consider, what's your wheelchair? What's the experience in your life, past, present, or that you're afraid of for the future, that you allow to dictate your mental and emotional well-being, and you blame it on the outside force, as opposed to realizing that, wait, even in the midst of the most difficult times in our life, we can choose to be at peace with the things we can't change. That requires some deep breaths typically. And then we can choose to be grateful for what we have. And instead of asking what's wrong with our lives, we can ask what's not wrong, and realize there's always so much in life to be grateful for. And then the last piece of the story that I'll share is 7 years ago at age 37, I was diagnosed with a rare aggressive form of cancer. And I was told there was a 20 to 30% chance I would survive, and therefore a 70 to 80% chance that I would die. And I had 2 children at the time, small children. My daughter was 7, my son was 4. And that was the scariest time in my life. But I maintained the same unwavering faith that I did with the car accident, which is I'm not going to be a statistic. In fact, I'll create my own statistic. There's a 100% chance that I'll be among the 20 to 30% of those that survive this cancer. And I'm grateful to say that I am alive today. And all of that contributes to the work that I do, which is sharing the Miracle Morning with as many people as I possibly can to inspire people to start their day in a peak physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual state so that we can be at our best every day, even in the midst of the most difficult times of our lives.
I love it, Hal. Yeah, we have been, so here at, Goals Greatness Unleashed, we've been talking about, what does it take, right? To like the science of achievement, and what does it take to really go out? Why do some people move so much further faster? And why do some year after year, it's like new year, same me, and are not changing at all, right?
Yeah.
And I love, something I want to make sure, everyone caught this of, we choose how we react to things, right? We can't control what happens to us. And you've been through a, series of different things in your life. And one of the things that for me has always been inspiring. I remember 2002, I was at a Cutco conference listening to you share the story of the accident.
Wow.
This was 23 summers ago, right?
Yeah.
And I remember as a young person, I was 19 at the time, listening and just being so inspired by that, and for me at that time, it was a very, it was incredible to hear that because, I had been around just so many like narcissists and people who were just like, well, this is just the way it is. And, and the meaning they gave to things was just so negative. And I love that, one, we have the choice to decide how we react to things, but we also choose the meaning we give to the things that happen in our lives. And those meanings can cripple us or can really, just project us forward depending on how we describe it in our minds, the stories that we create. And I think that you have been such a beautiful example of being able to take whatever happens in life and saying, here's what I choose, here's the meaning I choose to give this, and here's how I'm going to utilize this to inspire others or to make me stronger, or, it's always been about helping others, which I love that about you, Hal. But I just think that's such a beautiful thing that I want to make sure no one misses, is that, again, you get to give things the meaning that you want to give it, right?
Yeah. 100%.
So I love that. So let's fast forward a little bit, and then Miracle Morning, right? So you, I remember back in 08, like just a lot of stuff was happening, obviously the world, the recession, and share a little bit. I know in the movie, if anyone's ever, watched Hal's movie, Miracle Morning, he shares about this, but if you can give a quick little insight on what happened and really what sparked the original Miracle Morning, and then we'll talk about the new stuff.
Yeah, so 2008, I was about 2 years out of my Cutco career, and I had started a coaching business. I was coaching salespeople and entrepreneurs, and it was going great. It was on the rise. I was earning great income. I had bought my first house. I was kind of living my dream life. I had met my wife, and then the economy crashed, and I at first totally ignored it. I was like, I'm not afraid of the economy. Like, I create my own economy. I felt like I always say there's a fine line between delusion and optimism, and I cross it very often, right? Think I'm optimistic. I'm like, I'm not worried. It's going to be fine. And it wasn't fine. I lost over half of my income. I couldn't pay my mortgage. My house was foreclosed on. My body fat percentage tripled because I was eating cheap, terrible food, and I wasn't exercising. And for the first time in my life, I really got really depressed and scared and hopeless because nothing I was doing was working, and I was drowning in debt, credit card debt, you name it. And a single quote became the catalyst to turn my entire life around and really gave birth to the Miracle Morning, if you will. And it's a Jim Rohn quote. Jim Rohn said, "Your level of success will seldom exceed your level of personal development." And you might have heard that before. I might have heard that before. I don't know, but it landed for me differently. And what happened is, as soon as I heard that, my brain immediately quantified those two, that statement, right? Your level of success on a scale of 1 to 10 will
Mhm.
rarely exceed your level of personal development on a scale of 1 to 10. That's how I quantified it. And so then if you're listening to this, ask yourself the same two questions I asked myself. Okay, if my level of success won't exceed my level of personal development, what level of success do I want in my life on a scale of 1 to 10? And the answer, I believe, for all of us is level 10. I've never met anyone that's like, well, I don't want to be too healthy. I don't want to be too happy. I don't want too much money. Like, that doesn't exist. It's like every human being, we're born with an innate desire and drive to self-actualize, to
Mhm.
create and experience the best possible life that we can. So everybody, I believe, wants level 10 success. And the number's arbitrary. Like, we just want a great life, as great as it could be, right? 9.5 is fine, you know? So then the next question is, okay, if your level of success won't exceed your level of personal development, well, then you have to ask yourself, what's your level of personal development? That
Mhm.
might need a little more explanation, because you go, well, what does that mean? That's kind of a vague question. Here's how I would define it. What are your personal development daily practices that are enabling you to become the level 10 version of yourself? And at that time in my life, when I framed the question that way, I went, what's my level of personal development? It's like at a 2 or a 3 on a good day. Like, I
Right.
was not reading every day. I wasn't meditating. I wasn't journaling. I wasn't exercising. I wasn't visualizing. I wasn't doing these timeless, ancient best practices that the world's most successful people have sworn by for centuries. And so I realized, if I want level 10 success in my life, I've got to create a daily ritual that enables me to become a level 10 version of myself, so that I am capable of creating and sustaining the levels of success that I want. And so I went online and I just Googled, what do the world's most successful people do for personal development and personal growth? And I Googled, like, what do millionaires do and billionaires? And I just tried to hit it from every angle. And I
Mhm.
was looking for one or two practices, Kathy, and I ended up with a list of 6. And I almost threw in the towel because I got overwhelmed. I'm like, well,
Right. You're like, that's too
I,
much.
yeah, I can't do all 6 of these, like maybe one or two, but I can't tell which one's better. They're all equally valid depending on who you ask. And then thankfully, and I think it was God, was like, whoa, Hal, no, don't give up. What if you did all 6 of these? What if you woke up tomorrow 30 minutes earlier and you did 5 minutes for each of these 6 timeless practices, or wake up an hour earlier if you want to be ambitious and do. And I ended up going for the hour. I'm like, I'm going to go for it. And I did 10 minutes for each of these 6 practices. And we'll go through what these are in a second. The acronym for these is SAVERS, SAVERS. But I woke up the next morning. I did all 6 practices. I did them poorly. Like, I had never meditated before. I was like, my mind was racing. I wasn't doing it right. Affirmations felt really goofy and silly. But even doing these practices relatively, in a mediocre way, at the end of that hour, Kathy, keep in mind, the day before I was depressed and I felt hopeless and I had no energy and I had no motivation. And that's how the last 6 months had been progressing worse and worse and worse in this downward spiral. My very first morning of doing these practices, it was a paradigm shift. I went, wait a minute. If I start every day like this, I will become the person that I need to be, with this much energy and clarity and motivation and knowledge, to become the person I need to be to create the life that I ultimately want. And I was thinking, give me 6 to 12 months. In less than 2 months of doing these practices, doing this morning routine that eventually became called the Miracle Morning, because my life transformed. In 2 months, I doubled my income at the height of the 2008 Great Recession. And I went to my wife in the hallway of our house. She was bringing out a basket of laundry. I said, sweetheart, I just signed on 2 more coaching clients. She said, great. I know we need that. Congratulations. I said, no, you don't understand. This is monumental. As of today, we've officially doubled our income since I started that morning routine 2 months ago. It feels like a miracle. And without
Mhm.
skipping a beat, Kathy, she goes, it's your miracle morning. I go, I love that miracle morning. So I start teaching it to my coaching clients to kind of put a bow on the story. And my coaching clients, most of them were like, I'm not a morning person, Hal. I go, no, neither was I. Here's how you beat the snooze button, move your alarm clock across the room. Like, I'll give you all the tips and tricks. And on our next call, 13 out of 14 of my clients said that the morning routine was changing their life. And that's when I realized I have a responsibility. If I wasn't a morning person and neither were my clients, and this miracle morning ritual is changing our lives faster than we ever thought possible, I have a responsibility to put this in a book and to share this with the world. And, the rest is kind of history, as they say. I self-published The Miracle Morning. It went on to reach millions of people. We have the new edition, etc. So happy to go anywhere you want from here. We could dive into those practices if you want, or whatever else.
I love it. I love it. And I love, your mission. And again, for anyone who doesn't follow that, to elevate the consciousness of humanity and what you've been doing since, because it's not you just preaching it. I've gotten a peek behind the scenes here, there, and we have a lot of mutual friends, and
Yeah.
Every person that talks about you, Hal, what I love is just, they say even more powerful things about you when you're not on camera, right? Or like things about how not, oh, what a great speaker, what a great, but just like the human being that you, and like, just the intentionality that you had to get yourself from where you were to where you want to be. I think there's just so much power in that. And if we can, real quick, before we dive into the new stuff, I'd love for you to share any specifics, like, so these savers, right? For those who haven't heard, these 6 things, just real quick, to walk through. And as you did it, like, what do you feel was the most powerful part of that saver for you? Like, what was it doing for you? How was that shifting? Or what was hard or easy about it, right? Like, I know, and I'll share, there's some great tools that I'll share afterwards that I've loved that you've shared, in terms of apps, things that can be used. And now we have the Miracle Morning app, which is great to track things. Great apps to help with the affirmations, or to help with, because some of those are hard. And so, if we can walk through those 6 real quick and just what benefits you saw, that'd be great.
No, my pleasure. So the savers, real quick, I'll run down the list of what these stand for, and then we'll unpack each, and I'll share with you, best practices, challenges, etc. So the first S in savers is for silence. It's about starting your day with prayer, meditation, breath work. It's starting your day in a period of peaceful, purposeful silence, so you can calm your nervous system, lower your stress, and also tap into the wisdom that is available to all of us, whether it's from God, it's from within, from collective consciousness, right? Whatever you want to tap into, it's available, but not when we're scrolling through our smartphone or on our computer checking emails, or we get our biggest breakthroughs in those moments of peaceful, purposeful silence. And so this is about engineering it intentionally, integrating it into your day every single day, whether it's for 1 minute, or it's for 5 minutes, or it's for 10 minutes. In fact, there's a chapter in the book called the 6-minute Miracle Morning for the days where you are pressed for time, where you can literally do 1 minute for each of the savers. The A in savers is for affirmations. And recently I've been saying it's also for anchor. What I mean by that is I believe affirmations are the anchor of the Miracle Morning practice. They're the most important part. And that's a bold statement, but I think affirmations have a bad rap. If you're like, what do you mean affirmations? Those are so cheesy and goofy. Like when I tell myself I'm amazing and I'm a money magnet and I'm a, right. That's not what I mean by affirmations. And that's not how I teach affirmations. And that's actually the reason I think people have been turned off by affirmations is, number one, we're taught to lie to ourselves. Like if you're struggling financially and you want to be wealthy, just create an affirmation that says, I am wealthy. I am wealthy. And just affirm it until you believe it. Now, there may be merit. It's probably better than saying I am a loser or I'm terrible. But lying to yourself is never going to be
like, no, you're not. No, you're not.
Your subconscious, like, you're not what you're lying. And you're like, stop it. I'm doing my affirmation, right? And so you create an unhealthy internal conflict. So the way I teach affirmations in the book very quickly, and I walk you through, there's templates and you fill in the blanks, you name it. And I teach you how to create affirmations for every area of your life. Here's why they're the anchor, because it's specific written language that articulates the most important things for you to focus on, believe, and live. Step 1, affirm what you're committed to. If you want to be wealthy, that's great, but don't say I am wealthy if you're not. Say I'm committed to becoming wealthy, or I'm committed to generating X amount of income this year, or I'm committed to increasing my income by X percentage this year, right? Get specific with what you're committed to around your financial goals. Number 2, affirm why it's a must for you. There might be one reason, there might be bullet points, you might have 3 to 5 reasons. The reasons might be for you, they might be for your spouse, your family, your kids, but get so clear on the most meaningful, compelling must in your life, why that commitment is a must for you. Why are you doing it? Who are you doing it for? How is it going to benefit you? And step 3, affirm which specific actions you'll take and when you will take them. That's where the rubber meets the road. That's where your affirmation is created. It becomes a reality, right? So if you want to become wealthy, affirm which actions you're going to take and when. Now, in the beginning, sometimes we have a new goal, right? Like, oh, I want to start I'm committed to starting a business. I'm committed to writing a book. I'm committed to doubling my income. But when you get down to the which actions you'll take and when, you might go, I don't know. I don't even know where to start. I've never done this before. Great. The first action that you take is to figure out what you need to do and schedule when that's going to be. So if you're like brand new, like, I want to start a business, never done it before, don't even know what to do. Great. So write down the days and the times that you're going to Google how to start a business and or read the articles and or the books that you buy on how to start a business, right? So
Or
in the
reach out to Kathy
beginning,
and she'll help you start a business.
well, yeah, there you go. Yes, or reach out to Kathy. Find an expert. There you go. Thank you. And so, but that's it. So that affirmations formula, it's rooted in truth. It is practical. It is actionable, and it is results oriented. Unlike the goofy, I'm a money magnet, or I'm this, I'm that. Right.
Right.
The V in Sabers is for visualization and visualizing yourself like the world's greatest athletes do. It's not about visualizing just the end result, the Super Bowl trophy, crossing the finish line, buying the mansion. That's secondary to visualizing yourself doing the thing that you need to do today and seeing yourself do it while generating peak mental and emotional states. So seeing yourself making the cold calls, writing the book, having the difficult conversation. That's what the athletes do. They visualize and mentally rehearse performing at their best before they step on the court or the field, so that when they do it in real time, they've already been there in their mind and their body. The E in Sabers is for exercise. You don't need to go to the gym in the morning, but you need to get your blood flowing. Jumping jacks, sit-ups, crunches, right? Push-ups, go for a walk. Get the blood and oxygen flowing to your brain so that you can have more mental clarity, increase your cognitive function, and have more energy throughout the day. Again, it could be 60 seconds of jumping jacks that will wake you up in the morning. The R in Sabers is for reading. We're all one book away from transforming our lives. In fact, I'll tell y'all, the way that I doubled my income in 2008, part of it was I bought a book called Book Yourself Solid by Michael Port, because I had a service-based business and I needed to get more clients. That's what it was about. I implemented what I learned in the book, and what do you know? It worked, and I doubled my income in 2 months. The final S, and by the way, if you want to improve your marriage, be a better parent, start a bit there, right? There's a book for that. Kathy's books, my book, like there are books for this, right? Whatever you want to improve in your life. And the final S in Sabers is for scribing, which is a kind of a fancy word for writing or journaling. But there's power when you get the thoughts out of your head and put them on paper, whether they're negative, fearful thoughts or they're grateful thoughts. When they get on paper, magic happens. For example, if you feel stressed in the morning, you're like, oh my gosh, I've got these like things on my mind and I'm overwhelmed and I'm stressed. When you write them all down in your journal, you give yourself permission to stop worrying about them, because you don't need to keep them in your head. Right. They're on paper, and you can, if you want to look at them and think about them and focus on solutions, great. If you want to completely go, they're in there for tomorrow, because I'm giving myself a day off of stressing and worrying today. Or if you write down what you're grateful for, now it cements it. Now you can look at it, you can focus on it, you can put your hand on your heart, you can really meditate on the things in your life to be grateful for, and it amplifies those feelings of gratitude. And I'll wrap up this part by I'll paraphrase what Robert Kiyosaki said. So Robert Kiyosaki is the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, for those that don't know. And he has read The Miracle Morning at least 3 times, and he's practiced it for years. And when he had me on his show, Rich Dad Radio, he summed it up better than I had ever heard. He said, Hal, before you wrote The Miracle Morning and you came with the Sabers, he said, every successful person on the planet practices the Sabers, and they attribute their success to at least one of them. But I've never met anyone that did all 6. They just do 1, maybe 2 or 3. Maybe they read, they meditate, and they exercise, right? He said, but I've never heard of anyone that did all 6 practices. He said, I think you named the book correctly, because my experience has been that those used to be life-changing practices. Any one of them will change your life. But he said, when I started combining all 6 and doing the Miracle Morning, he said, I've been experiencing miracles in my life. That's why I think you named the book correctly. And so Those are the savers. And you can do them in as little as 6 minutes. You can do them in any order. You don't have to do them SAVERS. You could exercise first, right? You can do whatever works for you. And the Miracle Morning book, the new edition, of course, has a chapter on customizing the savers to fit your lifestyle and achieve your goals, whatever that is for you.
I love that. Well, you perfect transition. I'm super excited for the new book. I've been in crazy land with my 1-year-old. He just turned 1. And
Happy birthday to both of you, right? I mean, it's a
right,
birthday that you gave birth, and yeah.
I know, but I mean, this for myself, I mean, many of you listening, you know, like this has been such a big part of my life for so many years, and just really being able to be intentional about what we want to create, where we want to go, and having these practices to create the right environment, right? And we've been talking about that, get the energy right, have the right environment. You know, a seed in the wrong environment, sitting on this table is going to stay a seed, but in the right environment and nurtured can become something incredible that gives life to everything around it, you know? And this is you putting yourself in that, creating an environment that nurtures you, that grows you, that really lets you tap into your full potential. And so to kind of wrap up today, Hal, I mean, I could talk to you for hours. I'd love to hear about some of the new stuff. Give us the juice on the new book and things that were added in there to help support us. I'm stoked. It's a big focus for me this year to dive back in, because babies definitely shake.
Oh, that throws you off. Yeah.
Rhythm.
Yeah, for sure. And
No,
it's funny,
now.
I addressed that in the new book. I actually
Oh,
addressed
yeah?
that because in the original book, I didn't, because I wasn't thinking about what's it like if you have a baby, right? I was like, I was 30 years old when I published the book and hadn't had my first child yet. But what ended up happening was or with the new book, that's a big part of it. Is the original book came out 11 years ago. Right. And in the last 11 years, I've interacted with, hundreds of thousands of Miracle Morning practitioners in the Facebook group, at speeches, and I've answered questions and so on and so forth. So this is like, I've been able to, in this new book, write the book I would have written 11 years ago with the experience I have. And I added 70 new pages of content. 25 of those pages are in the Savers section. So the Savers section now is not only how do you get started with meditation and affirmation and visualization, it's, hey, here's what I've learned in 11 years in the most advanced benefit oriented way to take your meditation to the next level. So it's like, it applies to both the beginner in each of the practices and someone that wants the most advanced techniques. Then I added 2 brand new chapters to the book, The Miracle Evening, which is your strategy for blissful bedtime and better sleep.
Ooh, I need that.
Yeah. I mean, most people are struggling with sleep, and I went through a really difficult 6-month period of extraordinary sleep deprivation. And so I wanted to share what I figured out and learned to overcome my challenges with falling asleep and staying asleep. And then the final chapter in the book is The Miracle Life, which is your path to inner freedom. And it's essentially, how can you choose your optimal mental and emotional state, even in the midst of the most difficult circumstances of your life? I feel like that's kind of what we all have superpowers. If I have one, that would probably be it. I was able to choose an optimal state in the midst of being told I would never walk again, in the midst of being told I was probably going to die. And so I share with you what is a daily mindset shift, a paradigm shift, and a practice to integrate into the Miracle Morning so that you can choose how you feel in any given moment.
I love it. I'm so excited. And we will put in the show notes the link to the new copy, the new book with the additions, because there's so much power. I've taught this year after year, Hal, to thousands, probably now it's tens of thousands, over the last decade that have had a chance to also get this injection. And that's one of the things I love is like the work you're doing. There's so many beautiful leaders around the world that are integrating this, and not only in their personal lives, but sharing it with their communities, and just the true, like, I love that when you set out, I don't even know that you imagined when you said, I want to really like elevate the consciousness of humanity, just the ripples that would be created, which I know will go for decades, hopefully centuries to come, of people really shifting and understanding, like, we can take control of our lives. We can change our situation, you know, and
Yeah.
with focus and intentionality and, you know, these beautiful best practices, these are tools that can help us, you know, guide every single day, where we can feel guided, where we can feel connected, where we can feel healthy, you know, and vibrant, and really lift our energy regardless of what we're going through. And I know it's tough, you know, like that's been, and I don't know if one, you know, as we wrap up, there's one thing I had someone ask me, and I was curious, you know, you shared about that season. I know there's been some different moments, and going through a time of depression.
Mm.
And I, for the first time in my life, really dealt with that last year. I'd never, I think I had a taste of it back in college and when I'd lost a baby. But really last year, I was like, oh my gosh, like I didn't realize the pain that people can be going through.
Yeah.
And so even though you have all the right tools, how hard it can feel to get out of it. It's like, I know what I need to do, but why can't I get past this, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I really love to hear your thoughts on, you know, and thankfully, like, you know, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna do my stuff, you know, and I was able to
Yeah.
pull myself out. But there was probably about a month or two where I was like, I don't know, like I know, but it's not, I
Yep.
can't get out of this funk, right? So
Yep.
can you share a little bit to kind of what helped you, for anyone who's dealing with maybe mental health issues or, you know, depression and having these practices, but like any extra tips or keys or things that you would say to someone in that state to really help push them past?
Yeah, and I'm so glad that you created space for this. In 2020, I had been on chemotherapy for 3 years, and it they call it chemo brain. I don't like that. It's a very, it's almost like a dismissive cue. Oh, that's just chemo brain, my doctor would say. But what happened was I felt like my brain broke and I wasn't the same person. And I started sleeping 2 to 4 hours a night, and that lasted for about 4 to 5 months. And if you ever slept 2 to 4 hours in one night, you're a wreck the next day. After 5 months, after a month, after a few weeks, I was suicidal. I was literally, every day I would go, is there a way I could take my own life without it negatively affecting my children and my wife? That was a guiding question for me. I was in such a dark place. And then I wouldn't sleep again, and I wouldn't sleep again, and I wouldn't sleep again. And I was hallucinating to the point where I thought people were trying to kill me. So anyway, I just want to give a little bit of context to where if you're in that, and it was like, I don't know how to get out of this. Like you said, Kathy, like why aren't things working? Here's what's interesting. I actually pulled out all of my old journals from 2012, or no, I'm sorry, 2008, 2009, when I got out of depression then. And to your point, you had a little bit of depression, like in college. I had some depression in 2008. It was like a 2 out of a 10 in 2020, when I went through it again. So, but I went back, I'm like, how did I get out of depression then? Why isn't it working now? And I went back and I read my affirmation of 2008. And I actually went back and I read the original Miracle Morning book. I read my own book that I wrote during that time. And what I realized is that my Miracle Morning had become far too advanced. It had become far too distant from what it had originally been. And so I literally doubled down on my Miracle Morning, and I got back to the basics. And I just got back in the beginner's mindset of, okay, I'm going to do meditation the way I did it in 2008. I'm going to do affirmations the way I'm going to do everything as close to the essence of it as I used to do. And I also got off chemotherapy. I think that helped. I got off all of my prescription medication. I was on a ton of it from cancer, and against doctor's orders, I got off of it. And I started Googling, how do I detox my body from chemotherapy? And I bought a book called Your Brain on Chemo. Like, I started really dedicating my Miracle Morning, not at that time to making money or to it was like, how do I improve my mental health? And that's one thing I found with the Savers and the Miracle Morning is that you literally get to pick whichever of your goals you want to accelerate how quickly and effectively you get there. You just filter them through the Savers. In 2008, it was, I needed to double my income. So I focused my Savers on increasing my income, and it happened in 2 months, right? And then I focused on running an ultra marathon, even though I wasn't a runner, and it happened, right? It was whatever you focus your Miracle Morning on, it accelerates you becoming the person that you need to be in terms of the mindset and the habits and the skill sets and the knowledge to create the outcomes that you want in your life. So in 2020, I realized I just need to, what do they say? Eat your own dog food. Like I need to do the things that I tell people to do that I've fallen off a little bit. I'm not doing them the same way I used to. I got back to the basics of the Miracle Morning. And within a matter of months, my mental health dramatically shifted. And I still have some trauma from the cancer and such. So I won't say that I'm 100% like I was before, but I'll say I'm 80 to 90% of who I was before I went through 3 years of chemotherapy and all that traumatic experience that really devastated my mental health. And so that's it. I mean, I think it's number one. It's what we just talked about. You have to realize that you get to choose. You have to take responsibility for your mental health, your mental and emotional well-being, and not blame, well, no, but it's because of the economy. It's because of the divorce. It's because I lost a loved one. It's because of, like, we all go through those things. And I don't want to in any way seem I'm not being empathetic, but as long as we blame something outside of us for the way we feel on the inside and what we think about, we will continue to give away our power to things that are out of our control. And the last thing I'll say on this is that when you focus on things that are out of your control, past, present, or future, you feel out of control. And that perpetuates anxiety, fear, stress, and depression. So the only things that we should be focusing on are things that are within our control. And at the end of the day and the beginning, the only thing that's really in our control is what we focus on every day, who we become, and how we show up. So make sure you're focusing on things that cultivate positive mental and emotional states. Make sure you are becoming the best version of yourself through daily personal development, and make sure that you're committed to showing up at your best, not only for yourself, but for the people that you love and the people that you lead.
I love it. Thank you so much, Hal. And, for those, if you want to learn more, obviously, halelrod.com. Also, Hal has a Achieve Your Goals podcast. And if you haven't gotten his book, get online and get it. The first version had, 6,000-7,000 5-star reviews on Amazon. It's been purchased by millions around the world. And I'm just so excited personally I'm ordering your book today and to dive into the new version. I hadn't gotten to it yet. And I'm so excited. I know the power of all this and just the heart that you bring as you do this. And I feel like as y'all read this book, you'll also get to experience some of that. And so thank you for sharing your heart, your wisdom, your experiences, your authenticity with us. I think that it's very powerful. And I hope that our listeners really can take from that. I think there's some great stuff here. So thank you so much, Hal.
Thank you. I love you, Kathy. You're such a sweet soul. And I'm so grateful to have you in my life. And thank you for today. It means a lot.
Thank you. Thank you.